ToeJam and I'm Big Earl.
Hello, this is Ryan Shepard from Voxel Voice. We spent some time at PAX East 2017, and we're fortunate enough to talk to Greg Johnson about his return to the ToeJam and Earl series with ToeJam and Earl Back in the Groove. Well, we did talk about the game, how it's coming along, changes that are being made to the formula, and how it's staying true to its roots. He also talked a little bit about his experience with Kickstarter, how that campaign shaped the game, and how communicating with the fans put the idea in perspective for him. And he hopes that through that experience, he's able to craft the game that fans want, and hopefully something special for newcomers to the series as well. So without further ado, let's get to it. I'll be chiming in periodically to kind of fill in the blanks on the questions we asked. PAX East show floor, it's kind of loud. It was dark in there too, so apologize for the video quality. But it's more about what he has to say, so I think that really came through in the interview. So I hope you enjoy. We asked Greg about his legacy, how long he's been making games, and where he started.
91.
91, yeah.
Yeah, going old school. Although that wasn't my first game by a long shot. I was making games, I started in 83. I know, old guy.
No, that's relevant that you've been doing the games.
I know. I didn't.
What you're looking for is pioneer.
Pioneer.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But yeah, when the games industry was just getting started, you know, days of Pac-Man and Space Invaders, and the first game that I made, in fact, was the first game to really go big on the PC, because in those days people were saying nobody wants to play games on the PC, that's not what it's for. And it was the days of like the Atari 800 and the Commodore 64, and then we came out on the Tandy computer. So it's in like the gaming history books and stuff. This makes me feel old, but it is kind of neat, you know, to be part of that. And so I've seen the industry change a lot over the years. Yeah, and through a lot of phases. And I'm one of those rare fish who managed to stay independent all that time too. I've seen a lot of friends kind of come and go, you know, do it for a few years and get burnt out and stuff. But
We also asked him how he was able to stay independent for his entire career.
it hasn't been easy always, and sometimes I've had to kind of go through dry periods or just do some contract work to kind of keep afloat. But I've been lucky too, and I've made a lot of good sort of personal connections with people in the industry, and I'm on kind of a mission, a personal mission, you know, to create games that make people feel good, you know, uplift somehow, bring people together. And you'd be surprised how many people there are within the games industry who want to do that too and are frustrated, you know, because often a company's goals are different than what the individuals are. And so I've managed to make a lot of friends in the industry who are like, yes, let's find a way to do that. And so I go back to them from time to time and say, okay, any opportunities? Yeah, it gives you kind of an interesting perspective on things when you're just around for a long time and see all the phases that the industry goes through. It's been fun to watch too, in particular in recent years, the whole indie, you know, movement as it grows, and the crowdfunding. And
we asked him about his experience with Kickstarter and how that process went.
If you want a complete answer, it's it's a mixed bag in truth, because it's overwhelming. You know, and you'll hear that a lot from people that do Kickstarters. I just went to a Kickstarter dinner the other night of like veterans from Kickstarter, and we were joking that it was almost like turning into a, what's it called, a group, support group, you know, for Kickstarter survivors. But, you know, everybody there had succeeded, and of course we all had great things to say about all the things we learned and the experience, but it's intense. You know, it's like running a whole other business, and you've got to do a lot of learning fast and juggling a million things at once while about 1,000 people are trying to talk to you and everybody wants your attention. And but in my case in particular, it was hugely valuable because of what I'm doing, which is reviving a retro property. And you can't really do that effectively without knowing what the fans want. You know, a lot of people do, and they'll go think they know. They're like, well, I made the game, I should know what people want, but you don't really. And so that gave me an opportunity to hear from them directly, and also to, at kind of a really surprisingly deep emotional level, connect with them, hear lots and lots of testimonials and personal stories about their childhood and the connections that they had with their family members, sometimes people who have passed away. I mean, some touching stuff, and what the game meant to them. And it gave me a whole new perspective on what I do, what we do in the industry, and the impact that we have on people's lives, and on what I wanted for this game. Yeah, like it made bringing this game back so much more meaningful, and yeah, it's funny, you know, you just don't expect things in life like that. But
It just happened to be at the right time because
yeah.
Kickstarter just kind of started.
Exactly, yeah, and it's because of Kickstarter that enabled that communication. It wouldn't have happened otherwise. You get kind of swept away with Kickstarter, you know, like you don't, I think nobody really knows what they're getting into when they start, and especially with something like us, we had, you know, you have to build a prototype because all of the fans, even though they know at some level that they're funding something that hasn't been made yet, they want to see something that looks like it's almost done. So there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. We did that. You have to do another, we did another video, you know, just kind of we did a music video and that had animation and live action in it. And we did another video that had like a bunch of industry luminaries, friends of mine, Tim Schafer from Double Fine and Will Wright and Paul Ritchie from Toys for Bob, and they all acted silly in a video with me. And we did, you know, all the merchandise to getting it manufactured in China and shipped through customs and stored and, you know, shipped out. It was just like so much to do. You just get overwhelmed, and so you don't think about stuff. But like I was just saying about the kind of connection with the fans, that part I wasn't expecting, and that was really transformative for me in terms of my attitudes about the game and what we're doing, and it really impacted the design choices that I made too. You know, when I went into it, you go into it thinking, you know, oh, I want to make a game that'll sell and make money, and I want to have fun making it. And that changes how you think about what you're building. For example, you'll start trying to design for what you think the audience wants, right? Like, for example, faster-paced game. ToeJam Earl is a really slow-paced game, and you don't do much except run away from things most of the time. And you might think, well, that's not going to fly today for the market, if you're thinking in terms of the market.
Yeah.
But then after I started hearing from the fans and like how much it meant to them and how much they wanted that experience again, like to share with the next generation in their family and just to relive, I thought, okay, there's some things I just can't change, and it shifted how I think about designing the game.
We asked him what defines a ToeJam and Earl game, how they're incorporating that into a game coming out today, and any changes they may be making to the formula.
What kind of grew out of that was the tenet of keep all the fundamental things there. First, identify what they are. Don't assume you know. Like, listen to the fans, and then take those things further. Like, add and give them a lot of fresh new surprises, but don't change direction on anything that's important.
So what are those things with ToeJam and Earl?
Oh, well, like that one thing I was just saying, the pacing of the game, for example. The multiplayer aspect of it is really important. And I realized that it was that connection that the people had with each other while they were playing that's what really solidified it into an important place in their lives and memories. So it's like, okay, we'll focus on that. So we made it, you know, a 4-player experience instead of just a 2-player experience. Really put a lot of effort into people being able to come in and out of the game anytime you want and play local couch co-op or online. we added a whole bunch of things you can do within the game to help each other out so that it becomes a much more interactive team-like experience. You know, like you can run in little circles and your character will go over here and it draws all the Earthlings to you. And the only reason to do that is to draw them away from the other player, help them out. And we added a bunch of presents, like there's a healing present where you can sit in this meditative pose and you're vulnerable while you do that, but all this healing energy goes up off of you and down to the other player and you can heal them. And I can rattle on and on about all the stuff we've added, but there's a ton of stuff where we focused on that aspect, for example, and that came out of hearing from people how much they valued that interaction.
We also asked him, how has it been working with Adult Swim?
You want an honest answer?
Yeah. Yes, blunt and honest though.
So the honest answer is absolutely yes. There are some industry-wide challenges that independent developers have today that we haven't always had. There's so much competition out there now, so many people making games and so many tools to make games that in the old days you used to, and when I say old days I mean like 20 and 30 years ago, right? You'd form a relationship with a publisher and then it'd be like, okay, so what are you going to do next? And nowadays, and this is not, Adult Swim's not different than anybody. In fact, I'd say they're on the much more receptive end than any publisher I've interacted with. But it's still a question of like, they've got limited resources and a lot of people knocking on their door and people coming to them with games that are almost done already. So it's very competitive and hard to be indie. But from the standpoint of just like the day-to-day working with them, I was very apprehensive when I got into the relationship. When I ran my Kickstarter, I don't know if you had heard anything about it, then you would have heard that my whole platform, when I got up there and I did my little spiel to the backers, was this time no publisher, guys. We're going to do the game we want to make, because the last few times we did the ToeJam Earl 1, Sega came in and said, stop doing that, we want a side scroller. We're like, okay, fine. Then we did ToeJam Earl. We did it for number 2, and then on number 3 we said, now we're going to do a remake of number 1, and Sega came in and said, you know, here's Donkey Kong 3D. Like 8 months before we were finished, they said, we want this. Like, okay. So this time I was like, no publisher. And then when Steve G found me from Kickstarter and said, hey, are you interested in working with us? My first reaction was, I love you guys, Adult Swim is amazing, but I don't think we want a publisher. And then Steve said, I don't think you understand. We're your backers, man. There's a bunch of us who are your Kickstarter backers. We're huge fans, and we want you to make the game you want to make. We're not going to get in your way. I was like, I was skeptical. But I got to say, we're getting near the end of the project, and they have been true to their word completely. They've been really supportive, and we've gone back to them several times going, hey guys, we're not going to make it. We need more money, more support. And they've been amazing, amazing.
And finally, we asked them about release dates, schedule, platforms, things like that. When can we expect to play ToeJam and Earl back in the groove?
Oh, we don't have a date. We can't announce it yet, but for a good reason. It's because we're still trying to line up the ports and figure out exactly which consoles we're going to port to, and there's things still jostling around a little bit, and until we know that, we don't announce a date and then be wrong. But it will be this year, for sure, and I'm hoping that it'll be out, before the Christmas rush. It's hard when you're a little indie game like us. Even with a name like ToeJam Earl, we're still indie, and you come out against all these AAA titles at Christmas time. So hopefully,
You want to try to get a quiet time.
yeah, hopefully. But
And what platforms are you targeting?
well,
You're definitely on PC.
PC,
Yep.
you got that right. And we just announced, or actually Nintendo just announced that we'd be on Twitch. So Switch, sorry. Switch. Yeah, there was talk about Twitch too. So it's kind of in my brain, and Yeah, but anyway, yeah. So the Switch, and then right, we're not sure about the others yet, but hopefully, and also we're going to be localizing and going worldwide. I'm a Japan nut. I'm really excited about releasing in the Japanese market. Curious to see what they're going to make of this weird American culture thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks.
Yeah, you bet.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, it was great talking to you both.
Talking to you too.
And that about does it. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the interview, and I hope you're looking forward to playing ToeJam and Earl Back in the Groove. Stay tuned to voxelvoice.com for more information on when you can actually do that. I'd like to give a shout out to Amanda Melly for helping out with the interview, and to Cy Cuddy for playing the game. We'll be back with more later, but until then, see you later, everybody.